Hi everyone, thank you for watching the Compass Guide videos. I'm sure it is helping you. Please spread the word among your friends and peers and do not forget to subscribe because at the end of it, we are here to help and we'll continue doing that and bring in topics which is of interest and also bring in panelists who can add a lot of value to what you are looking for. Today, it's a privilege again to have someone whom I know for last about 10, 12 years. Uh, Someone who started her journey as an international student and has been a corporate leader in North America in the last almost 15, 20 years. A lot of experience and a woman of substance, a woman who is very successful in what she does, and a very creative person on her personal side too. It's my privilege and honor to welcome Didhiti Bhoumik. Didhiti, welcome.
Thank you, Sandeep. You're too kind in your introduction.
No, I know we go quite a bit number of years back, and I know all those other pieces that you do. I'm aware of, and but what is also very important is while talking to you about this session, what is important is to bring that value, right? And we know that as a woman and as a successful executive, your journey can really help a lot of people who listens to this videos of ours, the Compass Guide channel. And again, thank you very much for making your time and joining us.
Thank you, actually, Sandeep, to you, because you took an initiative which is, I believe, really helpful for immigrants, international students, or for anybody who is trying to make their mark in corporate America, right? So thank you for taking the step, and it's a privilege to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. The way I thought that we will plan this out, and before we get into some specific questions, it would be good that if you could share your journey, because I think your journey by itself is a lesson for quite a few number of people. And it I don't want to really call that out. You are in a very senior level. You're a vice president of a very big organization with a huge mandate, and I would like it to come from you in terms of your journey and how it has been.
No, thank you, Sandeep. I love to share it if I can, inspire anyone. So if I go back long time ago, I am from Kolkata. And I went to United States as an international student. And if you see the journey, it's not smooth. There are always ups and downs. It's not linear. So just want to share some of the things what I have gone through. So when I was in Kolkata, I went to a Bengali medium school. So I did not study in English. So the first thing I do want to say that I was not good in English. I'm still not. English is still my second language. But when you try to go as an international student, you have to study the GRE and TOEFL. And I can tell you my journey was not smooth. My entire undergrad where people always talk about they had the most fun as a student. I actually cannot say it like that. All I did is studied English, which was hard for me to learn those 3,000 words and to learn to pass the TOEFL exam, to even hear those conversations and in kind of a different accent to me and write those exams. So it was not easy. So that's the first thing. But the reason I'm sharing this and to show that it's possible, you can get through this. It takes time. I hear many times people say they're quick learner. I am not a quick learner. For me, everything takes a little bit more time. So it's being disciplined and having the goal and kind of working towards it. So as a journey, I really wanted to go abroad. I wanted to do the higher studies abroad. So that was the goal. So you got to work hard towards your goal. So I went to United States as an international student. I was Rotary International Ambassadorial Scholar from India to United States. Again, I come from a very middle class family, so I needed the scholarship. So again, you got to work harder to get there. When I was in the United States, I did 2 masters together. One is in my own subject. I did a master's in plant and soil sciences, but I also went to business school and did a master's in telecommunications management. And again, the reasons I did it, because when I went there, I looked what I want to do, and I was growing up and I was understanding what I like to do, where I want to be. And that's the reason I chose that management path. Telecommunications is quite like a sector at that point of time where there's a lot of jobs, lots of opportunities there. So I kind of took that advantage, went there and kind of started my journey. I worked in the United States for almost 6 years in different telecom industries. And again, like when you go through that, you learn more and you understand yourself, you understand your environment, where you fit, where you don't fit, and make some choices, which is important for your life going forward, your work life. I'm here actually, this year is my 20 years in Canada, Sandeep. So wow. It's been quite some time. So when I moved to Toronto, the Toronto being a financial based city. So I kind of switched the industry. So I worked for Toronto Stock Exchange quite some time. Then I launched an online bank, which was bought by RBC later. And then for the last 10 years, I worked in legal industry. So you can see that I kind of moved around in the industry, but it is always the core strength. What I worked on is always because I lead procurement, I lead project management, I lead real estate and administration overall. So those things were always there. I just adopted in a different industry. So right now I work, I'm the head of corporate services at ONEX, which is a $47 billion asset under management. We're a big private equity firm. But again, I take my strength and go to different industries and work there. So that's kind of the journey in a nutshell, Sandeep, and happy to answer any other questions you have.
No, and that's very, I would say that that's a very interesting part, because, one is as an international student, and glad that you shared the challenges, right? That, and more than challenges, I would say that how you, if you're targeted and if you know where you want to go, and then you prepare yourself, and it need not be that you would be always a quick learner. And even then, and I'm glad that you brought that point of, your vernacular, you're studying in your mother tongue and then moving into English. So it's not, a lot of time we take all that as granted, right? So
yes.
Those things are not really looked into, but those are bigger challenges when you move countries and you move yes. continents and cultures. And then also absolutely. The other very important piece is that you with your core, how you move between industries, because that's also a very interesting and important, I'm sure people would be interested to know that, because I have been in 4 industries, though the last industry I've been for the longest, but I've actually been in 4 industries. And a lot of people ask me, how did you move? And it's the same thing that I always believe, that it's the core. So the very
correct.
basic stuff is the same. So then yes. It doesn't matter which industry you are, because you're just setting that up. No, I'm glad, Didhiti, that you shared this piece, and especially the piece that what were your challenges, right? That what are the initial challenges that you had? Yeah, we did have fun in college. Sad to know that you didn't have one, but I did had my ball of a time in my college days. But coming to more serious point, that today's date, a lot is spoken about diversity. Lot is spoken about equity, right? We are also talking about, in that whole scheme of things, we are trying to see that how every organization is trying to see how they can bring more and more women in the leadership roles, how they can bring more and more women in and make them grow, right? And remove those obstacles that women a lot of time faces. And we also know that there are also a lot of other responsibilities that women generally take care of from their family side too, which a lot of time men do not. Keeping all that in mind, I wanted to ask you that what would be the top three things, top three tips from you, especially with somebody like you with such a long career and such a successful career in North America. What are the three things that you would give as tips to women who are starting the journey now?
Great question, Sandeep. So I can only share, Sandeep, what I feel, right? This is a like coming from me, like personally. The first thing I will say, you have to be you, Sandeep. That's the first thing. There is a big on diversity and inclusion, I believe, because if you are not you, then you don't bring any diversified thought process or anything to the table. So I think that's the first thing, that you really have to be you. For anybody, for any woman, I'll say the resilience and grit. So Sandeep, when we talk about our successes and when you talk about the jobs we have, we don't talk about the jobs we did not get. When you talk about it, many people talk to me about all the articles Forbes published, I wrote them, but they don't know the articles was not published. So what I'm trying to say here is that, first of all, nothing is linear. No success is linear. There are ups and downs, but the only way you can overcome is by resilience and grit. And you have to have that goal, that where you want to be, and constantly working towards it. I also think as a woman, I think personally, there are some, you talked about the barriers, and there are some barriers, of course, there are some outside barriers, right, which you have to overcome. But I think there are also some inside barriers, which I had to overcome, so personally. So I think we always have to keep those things in mind, Sandeep, because I always felt that I have to be better to get there. I have to do things more, or I have to, work harder. And we all have to work harder. We all have to do it. But again, it's kind of in my inside, and I have to overcome it and tell myself, no, I'm good enough. I am good enough the way I am, and I can do this job. Right? I don't have to do two other things to prove myself that I can do this job. I am good enough. So those are something in your inside you got to overcome. And then, of course, there are, Sandeep, the respect is what we earn. What we earn when we work, you have to work through and show them and prove everybody what you can do. And again, it's not always, as I said, it's not everything will be fantastic all the time. There will be something you will get, there will be something you will not get, and you just have to work towards it, right? So I think those are some of the tips, like what I will say, that it's the life and your work life is a longer journey, and it's not one thing. Something will set you back a little bit, something will take you forward. You just have to go through that journey altogether.
No, and so well said. And I was just trying to reflect upon the point that you mentioned, that you have to be you. You have to first understand yourself, and then understand that where you really want to go, and then the grit and just to the resilience, to be resilient and be there all the time, and knowing that putting across that point that I am good at what I am good at, right? And
yes,
and it's so very important, because and a lot of people would not know that both of us, we come from a community where we really we have never seen women in a different light. In our community, the way from where we come from, woman actually is more powerful in all aspects, and that's how we perceive any which way. So I think coming from you, that point is very important. Moving to the second question that I had for you, and this is again based on the conversation that I and you were having when we were trying to plan this out, that there are a lot of time women have they create the barrier for themselves.
Correct.
Unknowingly, obviously, not knowingly, but unknowingly, a lot of time missteps happens, and those missteps are most of the time created by the person herself. In your journey and based on your experience, what are the few things that you have seen like that, and what would be your point to them, to the people who are going to listen to this? Like, what are the few things that they should avoid?
So the first thing I will try, because from South Asian background and knowing South Asian women, I think we need to first stop talking about our husbands and our kids. So when you talk to any in South Asian community, the women, they're very proud, and they will say, my husband, he does this, and my kids, they go to this school, and they're very proud, which we all should be. Absolutely, we are always going to be proud of our loved ones, right? But what I want to hear from them, to first talk about themselves. This is what I do. This is where I went to school, and this is where I'm planning to do. This is what I'm going to go to school. This is my plan. So let's focus on yourself, and let's get that out, that who you are and who you want to be, and always celebrate your loved one. But you got to first celebrate yourself. So I think that this is a mindset, Sandeep, right? This is a mindset which we all have to kind of bring it together, right? It's not one person's job. That's the first thing I will say. The other thing I will also say that there's always networking. It's a hugely important thing, and I do a lot of networking. But I do want to share a couple of things, that you cannot just do networking on the sake of networking. It doesn't work. I think you should start talking to people about what you're really passionate about. So let's say, Sandeep, I'm just talking about myself. I'm passionate about football. I went to school in US. You have to be passionate about football. There's no other choice. I'm a lifelong Tom Brady fan, so I don't even know who to support anymore. But what I'm saying, that if you're really passionate about something, and then you talk to people with a similar interest, the conversation is natural. You really don't have to try. And that's how you build the relationship, you build the trust. And for a woman, when you're networking, it's really important to network with women, but it's equally important to network with men, because we're all in the workforce. You cannot just say, I will network with women and not men. And it doesn't work that way. So you really have to open yourself up for the entire workforce, and get the mentorship, and talk to people with similar interests, so that the conversation can grow. So those are some of the few tips I will say are things for anybody to think about who is trying to make it in the corporate world.
No, I think and very valuable. The first point that you made is very interesting, because I think a lot of time it's almost like a opposite things, right? On one side, you're looking at your career, you want to grow, but all your focus is on your spouse and your kids, right? And it's a generational, it's a social thing, it's a maybe an ethnic thing, possible. But I think calling that out, that your career is the most important thing for you, and it's okay to love your loved ones, but the focus of the discussion should be you and what you go with, right? And the second point that you made is also very interesting, and what networking for the sake of networking is something which I always talk about, right? That just don't do it just for the sake of doing it. Right? What exactly are you trying to achieve out of it? What are your goals? Why are you? Because in a corporate world, you don't network for social reasons. You're not on a dating app, right? It's a different thing. It's a different kind of a networking. So when you're networking in a corporate world, there needs to be a very clear understanding why, and then also understanding what do you really bring on the table, which makes the conversation
absolutely. The reason you will get into, like, you get a seat at the table, because you do have something to give, right?
Absolutely.
You have something to bring, you have something to share, your ideas will matter, right? So that's how you bring yourself. And that's why, Sandeep, when I first said that, first of all, you have to be you.
Yeah. Very important. Very, very important. And I think it kind of, I'm sure when people listen to this conversation, they would be able to, connect the dots. Because it is so important that if you don't know yourself, and then if you do not have the grit, if you do not have the resilience to be and be consistent in terms of where you want to go, then when it comes to networking, you will be all over the place.
Absolutely.
Right? And it cannot be a networking only to benefit you. Then it's not networking. Networking is about benefiting each other. So where do you really see that it's important? No, I'm glad that you brought up this couple of points, very interesting ones. Moving to our last question, and that is, I thought that, and you touched some of it in your journey. So you came in as an international student, right? And then you started working in US, in North America. Let's put it that way, and then moved into Canada. Canada obviously is attracting a lot of international students and is also attracting a lot of work permit holders currently who are starting their career in Canada, maybe 1 or 2 years somewhere else and then starting. What would be some, at least 2 or 3 tips that you would like to give from a newcomer perspective? Somebody who is either getting into the workforce after working a couple of years in other parts of the world, and let's take South Asia from where we come from. What would be few things that you would like to tell them that how it is a little different? And what are the things that you see which newcomers should keep in mind when they're trying to explore the corporate world here in North America?
Again, a great question, Sandeep. Again, I can only give my personal perspective. So what I felt like when I went to US, I was 22 years old. So I was very young. And as you know, at a young age, it's easy to mingle. Let's put it in this way. It's easy to be part of something. So I know that there are immigrants coming from South Asia or any other places. They come as a student. Probably that's a little bit easier than coming when you are in mid-30s or late 30s, where you already had an establishment somewhere and you are coming here, right? But in both cases, what I will say that when you are coming to the new country, you really have to make your own. So I think that's the biggest thing, that we always have to value our own culture, because that's where we came from. Like, we were born there. But when we were born, it was not a choice. This is a choice. You are making a choice to go to a country. There's something definitely attracted you. That's why you're coming here, right? So you are making a choice. And so when you are coming here, you really have to get adopted here, keeping your roots. So I think it's very important to immerse yourself in the cultures here, with the people here. I always tell people that you really have to, when you are in Toronto, let's say, because we're here, and it can be anywhere else, but when you are in those big cities, which is multicultural, you really have to be getting out of only meeting people from your own culture, to diverse yourself, to learn from different cultures what this city and country has to offer, right? So I think that's the most important tip. I'm not saying that you don't have to keep your own culture, of course you do, but I think you got to learn other and kind of take the best from everybody. I think that's the biggest thing in personal way to grow yourself personally. Like, your work life comes later personally. When you can do that, and then you go to an workplace where you are not just a person from Southeast Asia or from India or Bangladesh or Pakistan or anywhere, you are a person who traveled the world or came here, had a lot of perspective, and can bring a lot of things to the table. So I think that's very important. The other thing I think also very important to understand and listen to others' perspective and other cultures and other things. So again, making yourself a more global person that part. And as well as when you're, as I said, when you're coming to the new city, you should have new food, new way of living, new things. Like, don't just hold on to something because because that's how you were brought up, or that's how you were told or taught, right? You really have to be open for what this country has to offer. So I think that's very important.
No, and I think, again, some very important points that you made, and very valuable for people who are kind of moving that way. That we see a lot of times it's easy to always go back and just stick to what.
Correct.
But I think the point that you made, that this was not a chance, this was a choice.
Yes.
Everything else was a chance.
Yes.
Right? But this is a choice that you made. So when you made the choice, then make the choice for the place with everything else that comes along with it.
Correct.
Instead of making the choice of coming to a new country and then only doing things that you used to do before.
Absolutely. You got that. Yeah.
And I think it's so important, because even in corporate world we see that, right? That we see people's expectations are only with what they have done before, and not opening up to the newer ways and newer things, to be flexible. And that's where I think your point of really mingling out and going out and experimenting with food, experimenting with other culture, making other friends, whether it's in your corporate area or outside, doesn't matter.
Correct.
But
yes,
just go out of your comfort zone and
absolutely.
Right? No, glad Didhiti, that we could connect and have this session. We are now at the end of the session, so thank you so very much for your time again, and for everyone who's been watching this and who would watch this. I'm sure if you really are looking for some more tips, you can reach out to the Compass Guide channel. You can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. I'm sure Didhiti would also be fine if she's on LinkedIn any which way. If you have something, some tips or something you need, you can always reach out to her. Remember, everybody is busy, so you have to take that with that piece. But for sure, if you need some help, we can be there and we'll be there to help. Again, thank you, Didhiti, for taking time. And thanks to everyone who is watching this episode. Thank you for watching Compass Guide. Have a nice day. Have a good evening. And let's meet again with our next video, maybe sometime very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep.